James Lin, really great to meet you. You're joining the team. Amazing background that you have. You've been at a number of places, including what I think our community knows well is RDC. So I want to ask you a few things, but the first thing I think people would like to know, given your strong technology and broader than that background, is how did you end up in a space that deals with financial crime prevention? Because it's not always a likely career path, right? But your understanding of technology, and we'll talk about some of the ways in that can improve what our clients need. How did you get yourself to this space, and what drew you to AML RightSource to begin with?
Yeah, I'm a business technologist. So what does that mean? So my passion is driving business innovation through technology to deliver better, faster, cheaper solution to customers. So to me, technology is a means. Customer value and user value is an end. So technology, not a means, an end by itself, is an end. It's a means to an end, right? So that's actually where. So I'm particularly interested in applying new technologies to provide actionable insights for better decision making, and that's actually been the theme of my whole professional career. So, I started at Merrill Lynch, at Standard & Poor's at Merrill Lynch, right? So this is back in mid 1990s, actually 1990s, the early 2000s. So the big technology then was web technology, right? So it was web transformation, right? So at Merrill, at Standard & Poor's, my work focused on applying web technologies to deliver actionable insights for investment and wealth management, right? So that's sort of like, so you've got a lot of information out there. With the internet, there still is information overload. So how do you find the right information so that you can make right decision? So a lot of times people only think about quantity of information, but in fact, whether it's in AML world, in investment world, what we need is quality information. We need real intelligence. Right? We need actionable insight that can help us make better decisions. So that's where I actually got started. From there. Then I became Chief Information Officer for Forbes Internet Business. Now, the technology at that time, John, interestingly, was a Web 2.0. That's where we got social networking, user-generated content. That's where you got the big, new type of search, right? You got, API connecting with people. Right. So there, our focus was on SaaS platform, advertising technology, and something that can deliver actionable insight to investment and business professionals. Actually, Forbes.com was known at that time as a homepage for the world's business leaders. So you're coming there to do it. Now, so I got the financial services background and I got digital media kind of background, right? That's where I just started to bring me to RDC, right? Mm-hmm. RDC is regulatory technology company. Now we'll talk about what does that mean? What is regulatory technology, right? So in RDC, there's another set of new technologies, right? One of which is today become a big thing, right? It's artificial intelligence, especially natural language processing with human in the loop, right? We will talk about that a little bit more. It's not just the AI, it's also need to have people, right? Going back to my earlier point, technology is a means, right? So the purpose, so what we're trying to do there is we are doing something interesting there, right? A lot of this directly applicable to what we are doing. In fact, RDC is a competitor. Now it's a part of Moody's, organization, right? So we are applying several technology. One is data refinery, right? A lot of people, when they do adverse media screening,
Right.
they run a set of names, entities against articles. That's not what RDC does, right? RDC actually do data refinery first with a whole set of natural language processing, other analytic technologies, plus human in the loop to turn all those articles into risk intelligence, right? So you think of, the articles are raw materials.
Right.
And so you turn that into risk intelligence. Then you run your risk screening on automobile, sort of, right? On gasoline, not on crude oil. And it has a whole bunch of risk analytics workflow for analysts. So combine this to deliver actionable insight, decision-ready intelligence, in this case, for AML, KYC, risk diligence for screening.
Right.
So RDC today is still considered to be a lead platform for AML, KYC, risk screening at scale. So like very big volume, right? It's not just that. So it's another set of sort of actionable insight, but in this case, actionable insights applying to AML, KYC, risk screening. So all, that's the theme, sort of like all these things together. It's all the same thing.
Yeah. So I agree. It's a tool. I liked what you said earlier as well. Is you still need human intelligence. The way we look at data. Well, at least for me as a layman in terms of this, but somebody who's been in the AML space for a while, part of it is what are your benchmarks to begin with? So what are your triggers, whatever you call that first? And then secondly, what do you do with that data? If you talk to our law enforcement partners, IRS, FBI, Interpol, whatever, they will tell you the data analysis is critical, but they also want investigative skills as part of your decision-making process. So it seems to me, based on that, if I'm correctly characterizing, I know that's what I believe, and I think that's what you said you agree with. How does that relate to where we are at RightSource now? Because you mentioned we have adverse medias, we have Arachnus, we have Quantiverse, we obviously have locations and analysts all over the globe now, generally, and so it's a combination. So for our clients, it seems to me, and that sounds like part of the reason why you're here, is we're going to take all these tools and say to the client, we're going to give you, my words, soup to nuts on what you're going to need. Is that a fair assessment of what you hope to be able to accomplish?
Yeah. I mean, the AML RightSource is providing solution to help people to review alerts, really, and make decisions on those. Right now, one of the biggest problem, probably the biggest problem in this space for AML, KYC, due diligence is false positive, right? So if you're looking at a typical transaction monitoring alerts, the false positive rate, depending on what level we are looking at, right? So sometimes people think, oh, it's, you only alerted 22% of it, but that does not actually mean the false positive rate is 98%, because it went through level 1, level 2, level 3, right? Then we make decision on those. But on the screening side, the same thing would probably. So, but the false positive rate, depending on where we look at it, is probably north of 90%. For the transaction monitoring system, right? And then if you're looking at other from pure onboarding, screening, that kind of stuff, I would say it's probably not unusual to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 60%, right? So now the question is, what do we do? So anytime when people run something, when our customer runs something, they get tons of alerts, right? The better technology, in fact, John, in many cases, generating more alerts, not necessarily that, right? So I think what we are doing, one of the key things we are doing is through combination of technology and people, try to reduce that false positive, right? So that we will all to remove them, right? So that you can really handle the stuff. Now, I'm a strong believer of what I call AI plus IA. AI is artificial intelligence, which everybody understands. So this day, AI actually mainly is a deep learning,
right,
big data, and robotic process automation, right? Now, there was last AI boom, which called expert system. That's what I was doing for the last few years, right? How do you turn human experience into best practice and accumulation of knowledge? So that's AI, so everybody understands. But there is
right.
another tradition in the artificial intelligence. It's called intelligent amplification. So the approach here is different. It's try to use technology, AI, to augment human intelligence, right? So try to make it easier for our analysts to collect data, to review evidences, to make decisions, right? So it's a different approach. One, on the pure AI side, what you try to do is try to replicate how human beings think, right? Try to replicate human activity. But going back to our earlier thing, what is technology for, right? For us, is make better decisions, better adjudications, right? And to do that. So I'm a strong believer you need to combine the two, right? So that means machine plus people. There are certain things very easy for machine to do, right? For AI to do. There are certain things human being is so much better to do, right? So in order to address this due diligence, alert review, alert disposition, we need to combine these two things together. So it's a machine plus people. Now, obviously, not just regular kind of traditional process. It's people empowered by technology, right? So robotic process automation used to power. And more importantly, there's a third component to this, which is we want machine to learn from what human being is doing, what our analysts are doing, and turn that into better machine. And then the better machine will help our analysts to do more efficient jobs, right? That will accumulate additional knowledge accumulation in the sense of we got better data, right? Every time we collect some data, and we use that data, leverage that data. It's a knowledge accumulation. It's the rules, software rule we can embed it. So that is the process. I think will make most sense. So it's not going this pure AI kind of stuff. It might be very easy for us to do certain automation, go from, let's say, something from 50% to 70%. Now, you start to go from 70% to 80%, the marginal costs are going up, right? If you want to go to 90 to 95%, maybe the current state of technology will never be able to do that, right?
Right.
That's where we do want to have analysts. And then we want to have machine learn from analysts. Now, why AML RightSource? AML RightSource is the leader in the managed services space, right? It's the best quality services, have a very good operational processes, and for the last couple of years, like I said, it acquired a set of very good technologies company, right? Technology companies. You got Quantiverse, which I call it like an AI, natural language processing, decisioning engine. You got Arachnid, which is data and natural language processing engine, with some workflow that will help intelligent augmentation. And we got Blue Umbrella. It's sort of like both the workflow, but also is a user interface so that client can send us stuff, can also get reports from us, right? The end result. And we also have Pascal, which is sort of like it's a KYC kind of, it's smaller, like a case management kind of stuff, really tied into analyst services. So we got these combinations. We got people, we got technology, we got operating experience. So I think combine this together, it's an opportunity for us to really start to transform this world. Rather than pure technology, pure people, is a combination of the two. And I think that's as the great opportunities for us.
So I got two more questions for you. One would be 6 months from now, a year from now, what do you think would be a way to assess success? So taking these companies, obviously we've worked really hard to integrate things. That's an ongoing, evolving process, and so that obviously doesn't happen overnight. Obviously, you have people with different skills. A tech person versus not versus, and a policy person, an analyst, and people bring different skill sets obviously to the company. So as you look, when you start hitting the ground running in the next few weeks, what for you would be maybe not personally what you consider to be success, but in 6 months to a year, you sit back and go, okay, I can tell that things are not just evolving, but they're moving to a place where we want to end up being, where it is, I think, where our clients know, as you said, RightSource is a managed service place. It's now getting a lot of reputation for FCA services. They now have all these other tools. And so maybe company X doesn't need to go to 2 different companies or 3. RightSource can produce all of that. So that to me would seem to be, if people are saying that, that's sort of a success. What would you think success would be? And like I say, success, relative term, but movement, positive movement,
Yeah. I would say first, I will start with the customer side, right? So one of my core guiding principles for technology transformation for business innovation is we need to be client-centric and value-driven or revenue-driven. Right. So I think for us it will be, can we truly make it more efficient, right? So that we want to make sure that our customers, so if the false positive rate right now is, let's say 90%, we want to be able to reduce that. And we need to be able, or need to do the same thing with faster time. So better, faster, cheaper. So on the customer side, can we process higher volume and lower cost and faster pace, right? So today, people might send us, 10 million, might take us, a few weeks to do. So can we actually use technology to do it? So the way I'm thinking, so obviously that's the first thing is, can we process those alerts, do the review better, faster, and cheaper? And to do that, we need to introduce technology components, right? So that we can run through technology first, right? So, and then we have analyst services. Now, for clients, they actually don't need to care how much is machine, how much is people. But at the end of the day, they give us those things we need to review, need to make decisions, and they want to get the result, right? So what we want to do is we want to have more and more stuff that go for machine to do. We'll handle it through machine, and then we want to use machine to make our people more efficient. And then, like I said, that process and learning thing is important. We'll have that, make machine better, make people better. But the end result of that is, can we do alert review, resolution, and decision-making faster so that our customers can deliver better client experience to their customers? So that, to me, will be the ultimate real measure. And also measure in a way that really prevent financial crime, right? So there's a vast probability of certain big bad events happen, right? So that is the one measure. Now, for us as a business, right, we also do measure success in terms of our business. So in that case, I think we want to turn into more, like you've said in the beginning, right? Technology-enabled services. So what does that mean? That means a platform, right? We are, what I talked about earlier, actually, AI plus IA, there is a term for it. At MIT, we call that extended intelligence, or EI, right? We want us to be an EI platform for anti-financial crime solution, right? So
that's great. So
for that platform, if we have a value for customer, we need to get part of that value, right? So that's how we can sustain our business. In order for us to provide better services. So I would say in that case, we will measure our success in traditional SaaS business model kind of thing. What is our annual contract value, right? That is we create value for customer. We want to get part of that value as our revenue, so that we can sustain, we can continuously improve ourselves, continue to innovate. It is like net revenue retention,
Yeah.
NPS for our customers. So that will be what I see will be our measure of success. It will move towards that direction.
That makes sense. So last question, tell the staff something about yourself. What do you like to do? What sort of hobbies do you have? One thing in particular that when you're not trying to figure all this out and solve the world's problems that you do to take a break. So what would that be, James?
Yeah, I like to read a lot, and then to go to just jog or run in the park, or whatever place is nice. Could be in the city. So
Right.
so when I walk, when I see beautiful thing, when I jog, when I'm jogging, that's where a lot of time you got inspiration, you got some ideas.
Sure.
So that's the type of stuff I like to do. Yeah.
Well, James, welcome aboard. We're very excited to have you. We know that we needed your experience and insight, and I know that the challenges are, while there'll be many, you're more than up for them, and we have a lot of staff that want to work closely with you. So thanks for spending some time and giving us your insight today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very excited to join the company. I mean, it's a company in this stage, so, and I think looking forward to working with the team.